Did you know that Infiniti is one of the hardest depreciating luxury car brands on the used car market, next to only Jaguar? Why is that? There's multiple reasons. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
First reason why, in fact, Infinitis lose so much value is because they sort of don't quite have the staying power that a lot of their other brands are. And Infiniti is not much more than a glorified Nissan like we have right here. And as a result, they haven't really carved out that reputation. For example, they've got such stiff competition, such as
Mercedes-Benz has been around for a long time. So has Audi. They've got a lot of great cars and models to choose from. Tesla's the new dog in town, and they also create another compelling conversation about a car that people are interested in buying. Even Jaguar has a lot of great models, and reliability is vastly up on Jaguar over older models. Or even brands like Lexus, when you have the beautiful IS models like this. Lexus, also a Japanese brand, but clearly has earned the reputation of ultra luxury and reliability all wrapped up into one package.
So it makes it very, very difficult for brands like Infiniti to carve out a space in the used car market. Sure, when they're brand new, they're all competitively priced with a lot of their competition. The sad part is they don't quite have the staying power that a lot of the other brands have. But when they hit the used car market and you're out there shopping for that used luxury brand, maybe you don't want to buy it brand new, you have to ask yourself, which model do you want to buy? I'm buying a luxury car. You're going to buy a BMW, Benz, or an Infiniti? You ask yourself that, and as a result, Infiniti's used car market prices slump drastically because of that very reason.
I mean, let's face it, comparing to its competition, Infiniti has a very marginal level of reliability. They have a very moderate level of grab and attention.
That just makes it very, very difficult to compete when you're talking about some of the other big players.
Mercedes-Benz clearly delivers on the promise of a luxury feel, soft, smooth, cushy ride, and of course a name and a brand that has been around for decades. Of course, Audi has that infamous quattro all-wheel drive system, and there's no better player when you're looking for the best interior components and development, as well as that infamous all-wheel drive system to get you through the snow and ice. Tesla, on the other hand, of course, it's pure electric. You just can't compete unless you're doing the same thing. Jaguar also has a very legendary brand name as some of the most luxurious cars on the planet. And BMWs produce vehicles with some supercar levels of performance. So now how do you compete with luxury and performance at that level and similar levels of reliability?
The truth is you just can't compete when you have your priorities picked, luxury and some other amenity. You have too much competition to choose from, and that's why Infiniti just struggles. Second issue with used Infinitis and why, in fact, they lose such brutal value in such a short period of time. In the first 3 years, for example, based on CarEdge's evaluations, that takes them about 77% of their original value is all that's retained in that first 3 years, is simply because of its overall reliability and sort of gaps and issues that you find in different models in different years. Yes, there's some great versions, but then there's some others that have catastrophic issues or such a prevalence of problems that they're just not worth the hassle, and their reputation truly precedes them. But we talk about some Infinitis with big issues, such as you can find with
Takata airbags have been a known issue. Now, that's not a direct problem because of Infiniti per se, because that does afflict these car brands, including BMWs and many others, use that same airbag. That in itself isn't the biggest issue. But now, unfortunately, a lot of modern day Infinitis use what they call the CVT, or continuously variable transmission, which is essentially a set of pulleys and belts that are known to cause a lot of problems.
There have been a lot of alleged lawsuits, NHTSA creations because of that particular issue. Lots of problems with that CVT transmission. They've reflected within themselves and decided to go back to something more conventional in the latest variation of certain models. The problem is it's created such a problem and a high dollar expense in the $3,000-4,000 range. A lot of people don't even want to touch it with a 180-foot pole. And Get Jerry also claims that a lot of these vehicles have problems with the crank sensors. And what the crank sensor is provides a reference. So when you're cranking the engine, it provides a reference point back to the engine electronics to tell you where top dead center is. If you lose that reference, the vehicle won't start, certainly, and often won't run. And that is a common issue. That sensor is a problem. And it's not a totally inexpensive change. But the fact of the matter is it can cause reliability concerns, and it just is one more thing to hit the radar. Other issues can be cracked radiators where you might leak coolant or you have to top it up. That's a common issue, as well as fuel system related leaks and other troubles with that. General fit and finish have been questioned at times. While this latest version has very, very nice paint, it is to be noted that certain earlier variations of many Infiniti models had a lot of problems with paint and issues with quality of bodywork. Of course, this one here has very nice updated taillights in this latest Infiniti. We have a QX55, and they've really stepped up their game in terms of the overall fit and finish and the style of these models. But the fact of the matter remains, there are problems with many of these cars. Now, according to RepairPal, they don't rank particularly bad, but they're not great either. And 3.5 out of 5 stars is roughly where they sit on average. That also equates to about $638 annually for servicing costs, which puts them in the rough spot where they should belong roughly with most other luxury brands. So they're not outlandish there, but the reliability, as mentioned, isn't all that stellar, especially when you have cars from Lexus to choose from. Then this sort of adds to the lackluster desirability that you'll find with one of these on the used car market. RepairPal also states that you can expect about 0.7 visits to the dealer for unexpected repairs, with only about 10% of them being of severe nature, where the industry average is about 12%. So there clearly are worse vehicles from an overall high cost and unexpected big dollar repair perspective, but there's some significant issues, and it's that transmission that is one of the big problem areas. And the third reason why, in fact, Infinitis just can't hold a candle and hold their value all that well on the used car market comes down to a simple conversation, and it's about innovation and performance. I mean, they look great. A lot of modern day Infinitis are really sharp. Look at those gorgeous taillights, and how about those little vents and those gorgeous wheels down there? You also got the set of dual exhaust tips on back there, and this is an attractive car with a beautiful paint job, beautiful styling, the overhang. The entire car looks very, very sharp. But that's just it. Looks very sharp. Unfortunately, when you have BMW creating M cars, M3, M4, M5s, they have high performance versions of all their different lineups. Same thing with Mercedes, and they have the AMGs. And Audi is also doing the RS models and S models of every different variation. There's just a lot more to bring and attract. They have their halo cars, if you will. Infiniti doesn't really have that anymore. Sure, Nissan did some great things with the Nissan GT-R, even that's getting outdated. But a lot of those products now from Nissan are fading away, and Infiniti's not really picking up where they left off. Even Lexus has the LC500, and they're living on the laurels of some of their cars in history. But Infiniti just doesn't have the performance vehicles to back them up. And unfortunately, the numbers sometimes speak. A person sees that 800 horsepower car, that gets them into the dealership. They may not buy that 800 horsepower car, but that gets their attention, and they go in there and they look at the dollars and they say, yeah, I love that model anyway. And then they might buy the 250 horsepower version instead, but it gets them in the door and it increases sales. That's on the new car market. But as a result of that, the used car market speaks in the same terms. People aren't attracted to cars that don't have the performance and the competition pedigree with some of their other competition. They just don't build performance cars like they really should if they want to be competitive, and as a result, the values just poof, plummet down into la la land. And there's another key reason why, in fact, they're not all that popular in the used car market, driving the prices down. You buy a car, you need to service it, right? If you can't service it, that's not going to do you a lot of flavors, is it? It's a dwindling dealer network is what my experience has been. In our local city, we've lost one of the dealers already, and of course the other one seems to be shrinking in its very stature. The model is losing, or the brand is losing its popularity, and of course the market and the network is shrinking. As a result, we're losing the serviceability, and if you got to take your car into the shop to get it fixed, check engine light, maintenance, any of the above, you're going to need that network. If it's not there, you're either doing it yourself or it's just time to let it go. That's one of the key reasons why they're hard to sell on the used car market. And the fifth has to do with something quite simple. What are we looking at here? We're talking about BMW. It's the ultimate driving machine. Or Chrysler. They marketed the Hemi as one of the hottest engines available. Ford has been doing a lot of work with electrification and a lot of their other great new models. Mercedes as well. They've got some of the greatest new technology with full digital pillar-to-pillar displays and a lot of great tech. Of course, they're going pure electric as well with half of their fleet. And other brands like Audi do a great job of innovating as well as marketing themselves. The reality is, Infiniti really hasn't marketed themselves very well. That's the truth of the matter. They're great products in a lot of ways, but they just haven't put their name out there. They're one of the newest brands on the market in terms of luxury brands. Sadly enough, a lot of people don't even know who they are. That's part of the issue. They're just not branded. You don't know what they drive. They have cars and SUVs, but a lot of people just don't exactly know what they have to offer. And the reality is, if you're thinking you've got some cash and bankroll to spend, you're probably not thinking immediately Infiniti's the go-to. As soon as you're stepping up to a $100,000 car, you're thinking other brands. Benz, Beamer, Audi, those are the brands that come to mind. Unfortunately, Infiniti isn't, and they don't do a great job of marketing and really haven't for some time. And that is why, again, it transfers down in a trickle effect to the used car market. You can't justify a higher price tag on the new car market, and you certainly can't justify picking one up on the used car market as well for higher dollars. So in other words, they take a hit and they take a significant slump on the used car market. And with all of that said, you're gonna love it. Check out that great video. It's all about why used BMWs are just so cheap. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.